All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to our Mondays. I am talking to another person that I feel is absolutely living in her authenticity. It says that we're live, but it doesn't say we're live on here. So I'm going to wait
It
2 seconds.
says we're live on mine.
It does? Okay, awesome. All right, you guys. So hello, hello. And right beside me here, which side are we at? Right beside me here is Rustie MacDonald, and she is a coach and author, medium, a gypsy, and somebody that I get to call a friend. She has authored many books, and I'm really excited to have you here because, well, anybody that really lives in their truth, like actually goes out and does stuff and follows their dreams and goes against the people pleasing and faces the judgment and kind of beats their own drum. I believe we're here to show each other how to do this, to actually be. And I felt like there's just not enough conversation about, well, how did you find yourself? And I don't think there's any bigger gift that we can give the world than ourselves. But so often we are thrown about and thrown about by people pleasing, going by the books, doing things right. And we're not taught how to decide who we are. So that's what this interview series is all about. That's what this whole channel is all about. That's what your own university is all about. Taking our life experiences and making them into a life, making them into our expression. And meeting you, I have just seen your light and thought, yeah, like let's go further. Let's go deeper here. I want the world to
Hey,
know Rustie. So this show is all about really sharing your journey on how you've found yourself or how you stepped into your authenticity and anything that you want to really share with the audience here at your own university and wherever else we reach. And everybody who's joining, if you would like and you like this, we're on every Monday and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where you get all the goods. And I put more awesome stuff up here as well. So yay. And if you don't know me, my name is Lisha Antica. I always
that
forget
was an
that part.
intro. So, Lisha, who are you? Come
Right?
on.
Right?
I'm just Lisha.
I'm just Lisha. Lisha, I am me, right? Who are you, Rusty? Who are you?
I am this fantastic sack of water surfing on this gigantic, ginormous rock, going through infinity, thinking that somewhere, somehow, I have control over the ride.
Mm.
And
How's
I
that
don't.
going?
I don't. But because I'm the only redhead in my family, God likes, or the universe, whatever your spiritual belief is, however you use it in your vernacular,
Mm-hmm.
likes to give me cosmic two by fours and really likes me to pay attention. And I don't because I beat to my own drum, which is back to
Yeah.
that authenticity piece, right? Like you're
Mm-hmm.
just who you are. And I'm not willing to budge. And the universe sometimes kicks my butt.
Well, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So why don't you share a little bit, share a butt kicking or two that has helped you find out a deeper awareness of your own expression.
I think the deepest dive that I went, I was in a very abusive marriage and I couldn't have children. And I went through process after process after process to try to have a child because I knew this is something that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I went through waiting a very long time to have a child because I wanted to ensure that it was really an authentic place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Again, growing up in an abusive household, marrying into an abusive house, I didn't want to bring a life into the place to continue that same history.
Cycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
hear you.
so I finally got pregnant and she's the most coolest, amazingest kid on the whole entire planet. So in saying that, I'm in awe every time I hang out with her. She's just the bomb. But I was about 6 weeks after pregnancy, I was dying.
Oh,
I had
wow.
72 hours to live. And
What happened? I'm sorry. 72 hours?
72 hours to live. Yep. I ended up getting really, 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 really stupid sick. And doctors, as much as we like to be angry with doctors, there's millions of variations of millions of things. And, you end up being a guinea pig until they solve the riddle. And hopefully they solve it. And
Right.
sometimes they miss the mark.
Yeah.
It's not that they're stupid or incompetent. It's just that's the way it is. And
We're learning.
so, yeah. And I ended up having my gallbladder removed. They thought that was the problem. And they did it laparoscopically. So when they pulled my gallbladder out, all of the stones fell into my liver and my bile duct, blocking that, causing me to be septic.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Oh my gosh.
I have a 6-week-old baby in my lab, thing I wanted more than anything in the world. And my doctor telling me that I'm going to die in 72 hours if I didn't do like an emergency surgery in the next 4. And my ex-husband screaming at me in the middle of this whole process of learning that I'm dying with my baby in my lap, telling me he doesn't have time for this bullshit. Can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
So that was wanting an eye-opening. Oh my God, I cried ugly cry. I had snot bubbles, ugly cry that night. They ended up putting me on extra morphine just to shut me up. And then, then I wake up after surgery. So literally this whole like huge emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And and I had to figure out what I really truly wanted in life. What do I want to represent for my daughter? Who do I want to be in her eyes? Because I don't have good memories. And I don't want to be that for my kid. Nor do I want her to repeat the cycle. So one of us has to break the cycle, right?
Right.
And so that began my inward journey. I started going to a therapist secretly. I started going to karate secretly. I started seeing a life coach secretly. And I started writing a book secretly.
You had a secret life.
I did. So instead of having an affair with another dude, like some people, you know how that's like the typical, I had an affair with myself.
I had the same affair.
Yeah. So, I had to get really good and really ugly with what it was that kept me in that wounded place. And there's a lot of wounds. I ended up writing a book called Having Tea with My Skeletons, where I sat down with each and every skeleton and had a conversation. And a real true heart to heart. Like most people, I had to pull it off and put it back in editing because most people that read it can't get through the first 2 chapters without being an ugly cry. And you kind of want them to finish the book. So
and the ugly cry would probably be a really good thing. I mean, as you know, like I focus on trauma therapy and there's such an aspect to really forming those relationships, both with your inner self and inner parents and all this stuff, but also like with those aspects of our personality or survival methodology that we call shadow work. And in order to do that, I think the most effective thing is to humanize them.
Oh,
there's no more separation.
Yeah.
And then literally get to know yourself so that you take away the fear, the guilt, the shame, the resentment, the anger, and you basically tame the beasts. And so that's what your book is doing. And I'm sure that it really, we all have so many similar shadows and we all feel so alone. Like we're the only ones with this aspect of our personality, right? Because we're all so special. And so I'm sure that your book walks people through that. And yeah, you want them to finish because they wouldn't have it in their hand if they weren't ready to meet their own shadows.
I think that when the movie Precious came out and the book Precious came out, that's a deeper, that's a very similar dive that people had to go through, except I'm way more intense and way more graphic, and so I have to let people
Yeah.
kind of chew on it rather than just shove it down their throat. So
Yeah.
that's being revamped. It's a beautiful story. You know, my birth mother is who she is. She's not a terrible person. She just didn't know how to be a mom, or at
Yeah.
least not to the standards that I allusion to.
Mm.
I expected maybe. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, it was southern teenager mom, like just a very different culture here. And you got your ass whooped a lot, even for blinking. And I'm an eye roller. I just inherently am an eye
You've
roller.
got such big eyes, right?
You know, they have to go somewhere. Um, and so that got me into a lot of trouble as a child. And it's just, I don't know if it's like a nervous twitch or what. I still do it and I'm 44.
Yeah.
Um, I'm okay with it. I don't really care anymore. But as a child, it was an offense.
Yeah.
One of the many that I had. so
Yeah.
so again, I'm fast forward, I'm looking at my daughter trying to discern what it is I'm going to do and how I'm going to represent what a woman in my mind should be for their daughter child, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um and I don't think I would have been any different with a son. I just, perspectively, that's, I had a girl.
But you had a girl.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's a perspective I can go off of.
Right.
And throughout that, I literally slept on the couch for 5 years
Wow.
because I knew I couldn't leave quite yet. She was too young. She needed to be able to be vocal. But I knew
How
we
long
were,
did you stay?
she was almost 6 years old when I left.
Um, so 6. Yeah.
Yeah, she was first grade, you know, going into first grade. Um, but she was reading chapter books. She was, you know, extremely articulate. Her vocabulary is very high. So all of the process in my mind to keep her safe,
6 years is a long time.
trust me.
Yeah.
I know. And throughout that time, it got worse and worse and worse. And then when I left, when I physically left, I tried to do it in a very peaceful way, blew up, blew up. And it became even more abusive and stalking. And he used the courts to continue the abuse because that was a way he could continue to,
Mm.
you know, demean me, put me down verbally, emotionally, dragging me into court. I ended up going to jail because of this.
Mm.
And I didn't even have a parking ticket. Like, I'm not
Wow.
that person, but he had the money to keep swarming at me.
Mm.
Um, so we ended up in protective custody. So that's where we are still, lots of miles away. And though in some respects he's tapered off, he's married to another woman who's kept his interest for a couple of years, he still continues to be abusive. Um, he's lightened up on our daughter a little bit, but still that putting you down, verbal, emotional abuse, financial abuse. Um, but being as far away and having 10 years separate
Yeah.
has really helped both of us in the healing process. And it's not that we don't still have wounds, we're still making sure that we're not being followed, because that's a big
Yeah.
thing. And even though we're thousands of miles away from each other, it wouldn't surprise me, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And that's just the
I have
trauma that,
I have some clients and some close friends that have relationships like that. Just like, you know, massively a step above abuse.
yeah, yeah,
that shifts over to that kind of schizophrenic, pathological liar, like beyond narcissist experience. That's a whole other level of scary. So it makes you dig deep and really go to find yourself. I think that so many people um, have this awakening to who am I, who do I want to be, because they finally wake up in a situation like you, whether it's sickness or an abusive relationship or repeating some cycle that their parents did and realizing, whoa, wait a minute, I promised myself I'd never be like mom or dad or whatever. Um, and and just having to feel that out and be in that reality. How do you think, like, what was the one step or a couple steps that you did even in the marriage, like even in those 6 years that you stayed between the time you woke up and said, oh, my daughter needs more, like this is, I am the end game. You claimed your role as the cycle breaker. And how did you step into that learning for yourself? You said secretly, right? So you started secretly doing all the things that you did, but what was like the big thing that made it not secret anymore when you came out?
It was really, it was really cataclysmic, because there is me that you see and know now and meet now, the person I've always been trying to come out of my cocoon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there was the shield protecting me from coming out of that cocoon, because every time I stuck my head out, he'd bat me back in.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, you know, I went septic, and then I remained sick for another 8 months. And I mean, drinking water, I couldn't even keep water down.
Oh my gosh.
I was so sick.
I can't
And
imagine.
it was all in my
I'm not
head.
like that.
It was all in my head, you know. I'm just doing it for attention. That was his thing. And then I was finally diagnosed after tons of tests. I mean, I had to eat liquid radiation egg things, and just, it was awful. It turns out I'm a celiac. A celiac is an autoimmune
We're
disease.
like the same friggin' person. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know you were a celiac. But
It caused
so,
me a hell of a lot of problems for many
oh
years.
my God. And that's why we had trouble having kids. It's why I ended up with it. Like, there was a whole myriad of, you know, oh, that's why I went through all of this. So now we know. And that's an easy fix. You're gluten free. You have to watch your shampoos and your lotions and blah, 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 right?
Everything. You
Everything.
can't go into a pizza parlor.
Well, I mean, I do, but I do it smartly. And it's kind of funny now in the COVID world about, you know, being clean. It's like, well, I have to be. I don't have a choice, or I'll get really, really sick. So
Yeah.
this world is kind of like, it's not that big of a deal for me. But 15 years ago, it was a very big deal.
Yeah.
At that time, there was very limited information. So in order for me to get my power back, I became a coach specifically for celiac. And I taught classes, and I gathered up information, and I wrote, and blah, 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 blah. This angered him, angered the master, you know. He didn't like that I was getting my power back.
Yeah.
It was all fine and dandy when we were dating to be powerful, but now that we are married, not so much, because he's now the master. And so through this process, I'm gaining my power. I'm teaching at the local high school to people who are recently diagnosed with celiac disease, showing them how to cook, explaining to them, you know, what's real and what's not real, because there's misinformation about everything. And if you go to Professor Google, you're going to die of 15 things all in 10 minutes. So don't do that. But, you know, so that really gave me the strength to charge forward and gain my strength, because now I can control something. And he still maintained his verbal attacks with, this is all in my head, it's not a real thing. So I really had to separate myself. And that's hard for people. People don't understand detaching is one of the biggest survival skills you can ever come up with. Because even if you're out on a boat somewhere in the middle of the water and there's a nasty storm and you're the only person left and you have to figure out a way home, you're going to have to detach from the situation and just, you know, soldier on. And that's how you do it. It's not easy. It's not fun. But so anyway, I'm doing all these things, and this woman comes up to me and she asked me to be on our TV show called The Power of One. Yeah. And so
Lovely. I love it.
Yeah, just like, you know, and I was so honored, like, me, you know, because when you have so much adversity and so many times that you're reminded that you're not good enough, you're not qualified, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough,
You're just not enough.
you're
Period.
just not. And no
You're
matter,
just dumb.
yeah.
How can you be so dumb?
Right. Oh God, yeah. And so when she did that, I was speechless because we don't come from a place of like confidence or pride or, even when we do step out into the spotlight, it's like, well, you're still kind of in a shell,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't understand that. When we, as workers and healers and people that are on the forefront of whatever cause, we're standing above our hurt. Doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean the wound's not there. It might be scabbed. You might have sewn it. You might have put a little heart sticker on it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going above and beyond and working really, really hard to stand above it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really interesting because it got postponed, whatever. And I finally I wrote up some divorce papers and I handed it to him. And he collapsed in the driveway. He was having a heart attack. He refused an ambulance. So I picked him up, shoved him in the truck and took him to the hospital. And I left him there. I got a call as I'm driving back that they wanted to do the TV show at like 7:30 the next morning. Okay, sure, I'll be there. And that's when I knew how powerful I could be. And it's not that there was no sadness for his well-being, because there was. Like, you would be sad for anybody's well-being. There's thousands and if not millions of people dying right now as we speak. And I'm sad for that. But I'm not crying about it. And it's not that I'm cold-hearted or anything like that. It's just there's no attachment to it. And that was really pivotal for me. I realized that it's not that I don't care for him as an individual on the planet. It's just there's so much hurt and so much fear that I couldn't love him.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to him, and that's not fair to me. And that's not fair to our kid, And so that was like October, and January 1st was the first day I moved into my apartment. And I lost 32 pounds within a month. And I gained it all back, but don't ask. Quit smoking. I slept like an angel. Like, I've never slept that well. And I slept really well.
What year was that?
It was 10 years ago. 10 years ago this January. So
2010?
Yeah. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. It was a huge turning point for me. And
was that TV show like kind of your coming out party?
Yeah, and it was really interesting because like it tickled that idea that maybe I do have something of value, which that's a real hard feeling to hold on to, especially when you're coming out of a traumatic situation.
Yeah.
And every time I tried to go about continuing that flow, something really serious happened. I had to go get a restraining order. They denied me my restraining order. He escalated so intensely. And our last year, we had 2 court hearings. Last year, 10 years later, he's still bringing me to court over nothing. And it's just, it's like,
Yeah.
But again, it's his way to keep us tethered. And so it's been hard to say that I'm doing a great job in my healing when I'm still having to fight him. Right. And I looked at him the last court hearing. I said, what more are you going to do? We lost the house. We became homeless. I lost my job. We lost absolutely everything. I had to throw my kid and the dog and her clothes and art supplies in the car just to get away from you. What more are you going to do? What more am I going to lose? Because I have nothing left to lose. And that makes me a very dangerous person at this point.
Yeah.
And his new wife just kind of looked at me and I'm like, I feel really sorry for you. And I said this right in court. I didn't care anymore. that he pays all of his attention to me. And she just kind of looked really uncomfortable. But that's the reality. If you're going to obsess about somebody to the point where you're going to continuously bring them to court over nonsensical stuff every 4 to 6 months, what's that say about your relationship? And that's a warning flag for anybody that's out there. If you have somebody like that, that's a warning flag. And I'm just telling you from my testimony, because he was like that with his wife before me. But I was 20 years old and I thought I could rescue him.
And isn't that just the most beautiful thing?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we just like to rescue broken puppies.
Yeah. I think that so many people can relate to your story. And I know I can. And I think that it's this constant journey that we're just stepping into our own and stepping into our own and stepping into our own. I had a total up level of healing around my own personal childhood abuse and sexual abuse just in the last week. Like I took a social media break. I was like, I stepped back. I had this whole like download of why I've been doing all this work and where it's going, and like totally pivoted and like all this stuff. And I think that there's like this myth that says, oh, well, finally, we're going to have it all together and it's all going to go away. And it's just going to look like this perfect little thing. And that's when we get to say we're enough. That's when we prove to the world that we have it all together, or our kids can be proud of us, or like whatever. And it's such a myth. And I think that the beautiful thing is that you're living is that you can be figuring it all out and still be enough right now.
Well, and that's what's very interesting about human perspective is we don't know what we don't know until we know. And
I love saying that. I think you know that.
Yeah.
Don't know what you don't know.
That's my favorite thing. And the fact of the matter is, I write very candidly about my history and where I come from. And if you were to take me at various places of my learning and my growing and my journey, I would have 150,000 holes in various places that I've had to patch up so that I can get to the next step. And I think people don't understand that even though you can heal one wound, you still have 3 or 4 that you have to work on. You just haven't gotten there yet because it's a lot. And it's not something that happens overnight. It's not something you can go and have beautified and pretend it's not there. And what's even more extraordinary is this time period. I found that a lot of people, now that it's silent, now that people have quiet time, and they're not shoving fast food ideology and TV and racing from work and racing to soccer, blah, 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 all that stuff that we fill ourselves with. It's quiet, it's silent, it's peaceful. People are starting to have very severe emotions right now because now that it's quiet enough, the stuff that we haven't dealt with can be louder. Yeah. And those wounds that we haven't been able to heal are sore because they're asking us to heal that. And that's
exactly, they're ready. Like I'm excited about it for myself personally, because I'm like, ooh, this is another angle. This is another tool that I can utilize to help people really reclaim their sexuality, which has been my focus since I had cervical cancer in my 20s. Is like, how do I make peace with this part of me, right? That was so misused. And what does that look like? And what does healthy relationship look like? And how do I make peace with myself? And I've studied everything around it. But like you said, as soon as you're ready for like a big break, like right in 2016, I was going to have a big breakthrough. I got massive photo shoots done. Like I was talking about it. I was on magazine covers. I was like, boom, 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 boom. And then I was raped, drugged and raped. Like fucking 40 years old as a trauma therapist specializing in sexual rape and abuse, right? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? But I went, right? Until literally this week I can finally be like, you know what? Like I might have this conversation again. and I'm like totally energized. And I'm like, wow, like I've been over here and doing all these trainings and like kind of like, right? And but it's like that next shoe drops, the next shoe drops, the next shoe drop. And so how do we end that cycle of abuse? And I think it is when we embrace that healing journey in our own university, when we learn how to walk into that shadow, right? Back to your book in the beginning and say, I'm not scared of you anymore. I already survived all these holes. Look how whole I am.
Mm-hmm.
Look how holy I am, right? These holes don't make me less than. These holes are like everybody has holes.
Oh
Everybody
yeah,
has holes.
and I think that's what people really need to get a grasp on, is the fact that we all have our story, and it's a beautiful story, and we're deliciously flawed, and we live on a big giant rock, and we don't have control over things, and shit's going to happen, and bills are going to pile up, and you know, one day we'll be post COVID, and then something else is going to happen. I live in hurricane country, and we're supposed to have, the worst summer ever. So there's always some spin on life that's going to come at you.
Yeah.
The choice is, do you sit there with a Jameson and a cigar and say, bring it? Or do you go, oh no, oh no, oh no, I'm scared? Grab a
Right.
Jameson and a cigar, sit there and say, come on, bring it.
Because we do. We walk through it and we walk through it and we walk through it, no matter our age, even a 2, 3-year-old, right? We walk through it, we walk through it, we'll walk through it. And in some way, somehow, we survive. And so holding on to that, knowing and taking our own experiences, whatever comes at us, because we don't have control over what comes at us or how it comes at us all the time. I think we have control over how we react or how we process it to a certain extent. And I think that we do have control over the vibration and like the reap and sow, give what you take, sow what you reap, all that stuff, cause and effect, or attraction or manifestation or whatever you want to call it.
It
But
comes down to basics. What it really comes down to is you don't know how to ride a bike until you try. And you're
mm-hmm,
going to fall, you're going to skin your knees, it's going to suck. Get back up and do it again, or don't. And
mm-hmm,
as harsh as that comes out, the largest lesson that I've learned from everything that I've gone through, cervical cancer like you, girl, I've lost children, I have, had to give up absolutely everything to protect one child. And I mean everything.
mm-hmm.
And, I've been raped, I've been shot. I can go down the whole history of life's journey. But what I
And you're
will tell,
walking and you're here and you're talking.
oh, I love it. And by
Oh,
the glory of everything that is, I'm here because I had to go and have that experience so that I can articulate to you what not to do
yeah.
and what not to hold on to, and get your priorities straight, because frankly, houses, cars, all of that can be taken away in an instant. Do you think a bank really cares about you or your family? They
No,
don't.
no.
They don't give a damn.
So what would you say is like for for that thing that you just said, like you could tell us how to get through it. Like what is your biggest piece of advice for anybody listening today?
Arm yourself with education.
Mm,
We have such power. We, especially women who have been prevented from having strength, we're taught not to be strong. And I always thought I was weak, but I know I'm not. And I am so proud of my learning how strong I am. And I really don't want to learn that I'm stronger, because I'm good. I'm
not
good.
calling anything in.
Nope, that's not calling it in. But
I'm
it takes a
convinced.
lot. It takes a lot of courage to
Mm,
acknowledge that the shitstorm that I walked out of is gone. It's done. But I did it. I didn't do it pretty. I didn't do it perfect. There's no such thing.
yeah.
But I'm past it and I'm moving forward. And the largest thing that you can do as anybody on the planet is to arm yourself with education, because people who tend to be abusive really struggle with individuals who can be articulate and have a conversation that actually makes sense. They
Yeah.
don't want you to be powerful. And if you can be educated, that gives you strength, that gives you power that they don't like.
Mm.
They just don't like it because they want to be able to control you. They want to be able to manipulate you. They want to be able to take charge. And when they do, they get bored with you. I don't know if you noticed that in your abusive relationships, but when they finally
I am
come to
actually pretty lucky in that sense. Like
really,
I did marry my mom, very critical, and narcissistic, but not schizophrenic or like he wasn't like some of my friends and like your story. And I just give thanks like all the time. Like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, it could have been worse. I didn't marry somebody who on the regular beat me and raped me or anything. It was, like it was just different, in that sense than how I was raised. So by the time I got in therapy at 13 and kind of and had cancer and all this before I got married. So I was older. I was almost 28 and or 27, somewhere in there. And I just had a lot more therapy.
yeah,
I had a lot more therapy. I had done Landmark Forum. I had gone through some coaching trainings. I'd gone through most of my bachelor's degree already. It was like done in psychology. Like I had dove into like breath work, and I was already teaching yoga for 10 years almost, right? So it was like I was already deep in this work. I'd studied sacred sexuality. I'd studied female orgasm at that time. I had done a lot of inner work before I attracted my husband. And so I married the lesser of the many evils that would have been normal for me to be in relationship with. And luckily before that, I had really great boyfriends. They cheated, like everybody cheated, but they were really great boyfriends. So I am really lucky, actually. I just want to say that. Like I have been so lucky when it comes to that. Like my parents did enough for me, I guess.
I think that, and take it for what it's worth, based on experience, I think that you're given what you are supposed to go through. And
That's what your own university is about.
some people are like tea bags. Some people, like myself, I like my tea really strong. Some people put the tea bag in 10 seconds and they're good. And unfortunately, my tea bag is in 20 minutes, and you get it?
I
so,
get it. Yeah.
so,
I mean, it's
you know,
no worse
it's,
or better, right? It's just it's
no,
just it's just different. And
it's what you do
um
with the information. I think it's what you do with the information. And I think as you get better at healing each and every little hole or wound or scar or
yeah.
whatever,
For me,
you can,
there's just been so many layers. Like I did like the regular layers, like the sexual abuse that everybody knew about, right? And like mom not being there. Like I did like the normal layers, and then it was like this under layer, and then there was this under layer, and then it was like, oh, let's heal bio dad now. He was like the good guy. I was like,
right, right.
oh, and I'm like, oh, we got his little issues there. And then it's like, let's do this all again. So it is like this cycle of going through our programming that I think everybody goes through, and it shows up in our lives in different ways. And we have different opportunities to react differently from the standpoint of doing our best. And that's I think our soul school that on some level I believe that we designed. And that's why your own university is named your own university, because I think that we're all here going through these tests of limitations, these tests of cycle breaking. And then we're working on the collective, like our soul family, right? So you're working for your daughter to break that cycle of abuse and taking those actions, and even your ex-husband learned something from that, and maybe he's breaking some cycles in his family, because an abusive person is usually abused. Not always, but 95% of the time. So like understanding each other in that way, that we're all kind of going through this, I think we have an opportunity to heal ourselves and heal the world, where
And I agree
we
with that. I
expect it just to
also,
be over. It doesn't just.
no, because there's still triggers, there's still things that you forget because you end up in a normalcy in that healing process. You end up in a normal place, and then somebody will do something and it just triggers you. And it doesn't mean that situation isn't healed. It just means you're still very protective about certain things, or maybe you haven't healed that part, you know.
Or it can be healed like a burn scab was used as an analogy. But like on a burn scab, you have to peel off the scab and let it heal, and then peel off the scab and let it heal, and peel off the scab and let it heal, right? Until it gets down. And sometimes, depending on the extent of your abuse, especially with CPTSD, or even PTSD situations where you have that result, you have to peel the scab and be willing to look at it again. It doesn't mean that it didn't heal. It healed more, right? Now you're more healed, but you peel the scab again, then you're more healed, and you peel the scab again and more healed. And it doesn't mean that you're bad or wrong. Like, you're enough doing the work.
Well, and that's the beauty of when you really get good with who you are. I know that I'm enough. I know that I love life. Like every morning, if you ever read my Facebook posts, it's all about waking up and being granted another day to be ornery and cause mischief. I literally have a Nerf gun on the side of my bed because play with me in the morning. Oh man, I'm like a cat. And so this is even before coffee. Like I wake up at stupid o'clock in the morning and I listen to the orchestra that starts outside of my bedroom. I live in Jurassic Park. I have every dinosaur plus a really bitchy turtle in my backyard. And he's mean. I gave him lettuce the other day and all he did was hiss at me. Ungrateful. Ungrateful. So, you know.
Oh, Florida life.
Yeah.
This is bad for you.
You should, right? So I have just like this cacophony of living every single day in a place that's perpetually sunny. Yeah, there are days when it's humid, but I don't have to deal with snow. So I'm happy about that.
I'd like to experience that.
Come on down, girl. But it's really taking that time after everything that I've had to live in fight or flight for. All of the years that I had to live in fear, in shame, in guilt, in on constant like this, you know? I don't have to do that anymore. I literally can sit back and listen to life unfold and watch the shadow form into a tree. I literally watch the darkness give shape to life. And I get to hear it and I get to breathe it. And to me, that is the most magical experience, other than the birth of my daughter, who's totally cool. I love her.
Yeah.
It's the second most magical experience I've ever been able to really get involved with. And I thank my stars every day that I get another day to be ornery, cause mayhem, tell really dirty jokes, and appreciate the moment that I've been given, because there have been so many times where it's been taken away.
Yeah.
And I don't have to live like that anymore because I choose not to. I choose to reinvent inside, outside, around side, upside, downside, my whole entire life to live the life of my expectation and of my dreams.
Yeah.
And being 44 and being able to start life all over again, and the really cool part of being a woman, like this is really awesome time to be a woman. I just think the 40s are the bomb, man.
The 40s are the bomb.
They're the bomb.
They're the bomb.
And
I'm like, yeah. And 44 is so much better than 43.
No, girl, no. I just, the 40s in general have been my favorite time. Like, I feel like I'm in my early
Every
20s.
year just gets better and better and better.
Well, I think I get better and better and better as a person, and the only person you really need to get really good with is yourself. Everybody else can go take a hike, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's not to be mean. It's just, you know, I'm not here to cater to you. I'm here to partner with you and have fun with you and, you know, co-create with you, but I'm not here to change myself for you. And
your mold. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or to have you change to fit into mine.
No. And that's not, you know, that's not what a relationship is. And in my 40s, I found so many authentic female relationships with women who have the same ideology. They're like, dude, let's go roller skating or let's go to the drive. Like we do things and it's not a preset, oh, well, we have to go to soccer practice because Lacey's won 15 awards. You know, it's not that. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
I don't play that game. I'm like, deuces,
I
I'm
never
out. I'm gonna
did.
go
So
bowling.
I had to skip over that one. It was too pretentious for me. All right, so we're really wrapping it up here. How can people like find your books? Let's start there since we've mentioned them. Like, how do people
You can
find?
find everything and anything about me if you just type in my name, or even easier, if you go to rustie.info. That collaborates everything. And
Okay.
I was telling you about the game show that I was on. That's on there too. So it's been an eye-opening ride, because the better I get with myself, the better people I have and the better adventures I have in life. And now I get to basically travel all over the world talking to really cool people like you. And to me, that's what living and thriving is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another Your Own University interview series. I'm having actually a lot of fun doing interviews again. These are totally like on the spot. You can show up Mondays at 1:11. Hopefully we'll be here, but I'm not even attached to that. If it flows, right? And I want to bring you people that are really authentically living their truth, that I see, that I feel inspired to share with you. And so you are inspired to live your best life and really trust your life as you graduate and go through the tests of living that we all go through in your own university. So please subscribe to our channel, share this interview with your friends. That's how we get the name out. Like us, that's how the algorithms tell the social world that this is good stuff. And make a comment if you really love us. And we will talk to you soon. Bye.